My name is Dr. Dan Jones. I'm an intercultural learning specialist at CILMAR at Purdue University. Before I get into my presentation, I want to briefly introduce our website that we have flyers on the chairs around you. I invite you to grab one. I'm going to talk briefly about what our Hubicle is, our affectionate name for our website. What is the Hubicle? This is an online collaborative space for those who are interested in working in intercultural competence, intercultural learning. Our idea was to create something that would allow our peers, our colleagues, to come together and share what they're doing in this collaborative space. We also have a repository for research so that we can disseminate some of the studies and research that we've talked about here today, as well as research that's being done at other institutions. And one thing we're particularly proud of is an interactive toolbox that we created that is a collection of various intercultural tools. So for those of you who have your smartphones or your tablets, I invite you at this point to navigate to hubicl.org/register. Registration is free. It only takes a couple minutes. And it is a very useful resource for those who want to bring intercultural competence into their courses, their programs, and projects that they're working on, and collaborate with other peers from around the country and around the world. So we often describe our hubs, if you're not familiar, were originally created as science gateways. One of the more prolific one, I think, is NanoHub, but we characterize it as a website on steroids. Some of the collaborative spaces that we have in the hub include groups, where once you have your profile account, you can either join a group or create your own, and this is a collaborative discussion place to bring in other peers to collaborate on research projects, to share ideas on a specific topic or specific intercultural competence or program. The research repository, we do have a number of published articles, journals, books that we share, but also this is a place for our members to also share their own work, unpublished works. If you're not planning on having it published in a journal, but you want to find a forum for it, we encourage you to submit to the hub and have it shared in our research repository. And then we also have a space for collections. And again, from your profile, you can create your own collections for ease of access. You can put a collection together for a curriculum or curricula. I have a few of my curricula are up in my collections, but you can also gather other people's collections to your own, again, for ease of access. And then finally, the toolbox, which is a collection of different tool types. This is a searchable toolbox. We have experiential activities, which is what we primarily began with, but also assessment tools, debriefing or reflection tools, things that are typically paired with experiential activities, as well as media resources as well. These are all searchable by the tool type, whether or not it costs money, how long the activity or assessment is, if you just want an icebreaker for the beginning of class, or if you want an activity that spans the entire class. Group size, if you want a whole class discussion or pair share, you can search with these different functions. If it's kinesthetic, as well as the various intercultural frameworks that we use to categorize these tools. The primary one being the AAC&U Intercultural Knowledge and Competence Value Rubric, the 6 competencies. If you want an activity that focuses on openness, you can search just on openness and find all the results of activities and assessment tools that we have that focus on that. We also categorize them according to the developmental orientation in the IDC. So if you have administered the IDI and you have a group of students who are in polarization and you want to search activities that focus on and help students work through polarization, you can do that, as well as McVandenberg's 4 processes, which is awareness of self, awareness of others, emotional resilience, and bridging. We also have different categories like teamwork, leadership, diversity and inclusion, and mentoring. Also, we have a simple word search. So if we have tags that are associated with various tools, so you can do a word search if something happens to not be here in the filters that you're finding, or if you happen to know maybe part of the title of a tool, you can search that way using part of the title. So for this, we've already demonstrated 2 activities that are in the hub, and you may have also noticed a number of hyperlinks for citations at the bottom of slides, many of which are also found in the hub. So I encourage you to please register and take a look around. And at the end of this symposium, if you have questions, I'm happy to answer those, as well as my colleague, Dr. Aletha Stahl, and others that have experience with the hub as well. So at this point, I'm going to jump into my presentation, which is specifically about semester abroad, providing intercultural instruction or intervention for those students studying abroad. And as we've mentioned, this supposition that students are just going to learn through exposure, we know now is not true. It requires guided, intentional intervention. So with that in mind, CILMAR created a couple courses to provide to students on semester abroad while they're abroad. The 2 courses we offer are presented, provide 1 credit hour. The one-on-one mentored course is available to students in the College of Science. Many of Laura's students have gone through this course, as well as in engineering, there is a global engineering minor that requires their students to go through this course. This particular course is hosted entirely on Blackboard, which all of the students at Purdue are already familiar with, and the activities, I'll get more in depth in the next slide about the specifics, but primarily in Blackboard using discussion boards. We also have a group mentored course for which students can get a communications credit, and this is a hybrid course with online modules and a handful of webinar class sessions. And both of these courses, as well as select program provider courses that we've approved the curriculum as being eligible for this, all of which are eligible for a scholarship of $2,000. So from these courses, I wanted to look at what was the impact of the 2 courses that we were providing on our students' intercultural development, using the IDI as a pre and post, but also, much like Laura did, using it as a formative tool to help the students develop as part of the curriculum. So we looked at 376 Purdue undergraduates over 4 semesters. We had a control group, of course, also on semester abroad, but with no intercultural intervention at all. The group mentored course has blended learning intervention, 20 online modules. Now this is through a partnership with Cintio, which is a subsidiary of AFS, which some of you may be familiar with. They created a global competency certificate. This was originally created for professionals, but we partnered with them to kind of make it a little bit more robust and targeting students and creating an environment specifically for our Purdue students to turn it into a 1 credit hour course. The content is primarily video modules. That's how the students receive much of the content, but we've also added in some interactive assignments that the students go out into their local host communities and engage with the locals. They then come back and take part in discussion forums, sharing what they've learned with their peers, the other students who are studying abroad all over the world. And then the span of the course, 20 modules, is divided into 4 units. At the end of each unit, they meet in a webinar class setting with a mentor to synthesize all of this, to tie it all together, reviewing the content, connecting it explicitly to the experiences they are having in those study abroad locations, and also having a discussion around the group developmental orientation. Unfortunately, with a large number, we can only provide them with group results and not individual. But in the individual mentored course, we do have individual debriefs. It's a one-on-one setting. Each student is paired with an individual mentor. They have weekly assignments, again, that they go out and engage with the local community, and then report back in a reflective essay assignment, and then that is followed by a required discussion. Their feedback and mentoring is tailored to their individual developmental orientation. So they're getting stage-based feedback and mentoring. Most of the activities that they're interacting with are framed with these AAC&U rubrics. So both, we use the intercultural knowledge and competence value rubric, as well as teamwork rubric and the integrative learning rubric. And this is just a glimpse at what this looks like, the two different platforms. So again, primarily video delivery, very short videos, followed by a series of questions. The students discuss those in a forum with their peers. They're asked to not only post their response to the content, but also comment on each other's posts and interact and discuss that. But video is not the only content delivery in this program. But then this is followed by that class discussion once a month, roughly. In the one-on-one mentored course, primarily discussion board threads with their individual mentor. For most of the activities, we do have 3 of the activities where they are actually interacting with their peers who are also in their cohort studying abroad. So these are the results that we gained from these 4 semesters, and I'll just focus on the averages here on the end. What we found is that with our non-intervention control group, this was reflective of other studies. The typical results for non-intervention range between 1.5 to about 4.5, 4.8 point growth, which is, of course, considered, as was mentioned before, between this -7 +7 standard deviation is not meaningful growth of any kind. It's considered stasis. So our results are in line with other studies in that regard. But what we found is with individual mentoring, an average of almost 12-point growth, so almost a full stage of growth, and a pretty consistent result with the group of about 8.5-point growth with the group mentoring. And we did find that there was statistical significance between our control group and the 2 treatment groups with about 90% degree of certainty. Breaking this down a little bit more closely, because we have this average 11-point growth, but we needed to figure out what is that really looking like in a much closer way. Is that within one stage, or is that transitioning from one stage to another? And what we found is that with the control group, a whole lot of stasis, just as we saw on the previous slide, and some growth of moving from one stage to the next. But again, this can be as little as 2 points of growth from this stage getting into the next one if they were already on the cusp of an orientation, all the way up to as much as 14.99 points growth getting into that next orientation stage. And then some that actually went on to progress 2 whole stages, but very, very few. We did see a pretty good size number of regression, though, with our control group. Again, this is all very in line with previous studies. But then when we started looking at our treatment groups, almost half, stasis being cut almost in half, and far more progression, and most significantly, more multi-stage growth, which was significant to us. There is still some regression in the group, but that's to be expected considering they don't get that individualized weekly contact with the mentor. So in our individual interactions that are weekly, when we start to notice regression, we're much more able to be flexible and intervene and prevent some of that regression. In fact, in this current semester and moving forward, that is something we're going to be giving much more attention to in our individual mentored course. So some of the challenges we've faced, the typical ones with distance learning, various technical issues with multiple platforms, both with Blackboard and Bridge, which is the platform that hosts the group mentored modules. Dealing with multiple time zones and the lag between response times for students, that's always a challenge. We have to be timely and keep the course progressing. Mentoring challenges, we have various mentors with various levels of expertise. Our baseline is that all of our mentors are qualified administrators of the IDI. For those who are doing the group course, they also receive further training in that specific course. But there is varying expertise and also varying commitment. While we do have a lot of mentors who are intercultural learning specialists in my office, as well as specialists in the study abroad office, who it is part of their job, as well as some faculty and staff in the College of Science and engineering, that it's their job, part of their job, or even with some graduate students who've been trained, their primary job. We also have a lot of volunteer mentors who join us in providing some of this individualized mentoring. And that presents challenges as well. They're not being paid to do this, they're doing it out of the kindness of their heart. So, and finding extra time to mentor is a challenge. And there's also administrative challenges, managing a large number of mentors and students. I have over 40 mentors and, well over 200 students every semester, well, every spring semester. Fall semester tends to be slightly smaller. And then administering the assessment tools and managing partnerships with College of Science, College of Engineering, as well as with Cintio, and them also facilitating conversations with the Bridge, the company that supports Bridge. So my takeaway from all of this is that we are having an impact on our students, and I think we have a good model for expanding that for students who are studying abroad and improving it with each iteration, and that's what we've been seeing. Okay, thank you.